Hello everyone, let us start with the next paper, which is AIBE 8. This paper was particularly categorized as a tough paper set because the questions of these papers were comparatively difficult as compared to the other papers, and we'll soon find out why. Let us start. Mere illegality of the strike does not per se spell unjustifiably. J.S. Krishna Iyer, in which case declared so. This was Gujarat Steel Tubes versus Gujarat Tubes Mazdoor Sabha. Entry number 22 of the concurrent list deals with trade unions and industrial labor disputes. Which article under the Constitution of India talks about participation of workers in the management of industries? The answer over here is 43A. Pick out the case that is popularly called as the solicitor's case. National Union of Commercial Employees and Industrial Tribunal, Bombay. Identify the case that is related to the need for promotion and preservation of internal democracy within the trade unions. Hanumanta Rao versus Registrar of Trade Unions. In tort, there are two broad categories of the activities for which a plaintiff may be held strictly liable: possession of certain animals and abnormally dangerous activities. Now, this is a very long question. Let us read it together. Selvi's daughter Kavita had married Shiv Kumar of a different caste against the wishes of her family. Shiv Kumar was brutally killed in 2004, and Selvi had two others became the suspects. Since the prosecution case depended entirely on circumstantial evidence, it sought the court's permission to conduct polygraphy and brain mapping tests on three persons. The court granted permission and the tests were conducted. When the results of the polygraph tests indicated signs of deception, the prosecution sought the court's permission to perform narco analysis on the three persons. The magistrate directed the three of them to undergo narco analysis. All of them challenged this decision in the Karnataka High Court but failed to get relief. They then appeal they went to an appeal in the Supreme Court. The court held compulsory brain mapping and polygraph tests and narco analysis were in violation of Article 20, Clause 3 and Article 21 of the Constitution. This case law is a landmark case law. It can also be asked in a different format as to what is the name of the case law. So it's better to have a rough read. According to Article 71, disputes arising in connection with the elections of a president or vice president are to be inquired into and decided by the Supreme Court. The Water Prevention and Control Pollution Act 1974 regulates the discharge of hazardous pollutants into the nation's surface water. It was held by the Supreme Court that the noise pollution beyond permissible limits cannot be tolerated, even if such noise was direct result and was connected with religious activities. This was held in the case of Church of God Full Gospel in India versus KKR Majesty Colony Welfare Association. The Supreme Court observed when an enterprise is engaged in a hazardous or inherently dangerous activity and harm results to anyone on account of an accident in the operation of such hazardous or inherently dangerous activity, resulting, for example, in escape of toxic gas, the enterprise is strictly and absolutely liable to compensate all those who are affected by the accident, and such liability is not subject to any of the exceptions which operate vis-a-vis the tortious principle of strict liability. In such a case, the measure of the compensation must be correlated to the magnitude and capacity of the enterprise because such compensation must have a deterrent effect. The larger and the more prosperous the enterprise, the greater must be the amount of compensation payable by it for the harm caused on the account of the accident in the carrying of the hazardous or inherently dangerous activity by the enterprise. ये कौन से केस में हुआ था? MC Mehta versus Union of India 1989. Then Article 48A and Article 51A G were inserted in the Constitution by 42nd Amendment of 1976. According to Environmental Protection Act of 1986, environmental pollutant means any solid, liquid, or gaseous substance present in such concentration as may be or tend to be injurious to the environment. A is in possession of property claimed by B and C adversely. A does not claim any interest in the property and is ready to deliver it to the rightful owner. A can institute dash suit, interpleader. An executive magistrate may require security for keeping good behavior from habitual offenders for a period not more than 3 years. He again repeat question hai. The police officer executing the warrant may use adequate force to access the place where search is to be conducted when a free ingress is not possible. As per the provisions of the Code of CRPC, in case of merger of a complaint with the police report, the procedure to be followed of the trial shall be the case instituted on the police report. B. Peak versus Gurney is the famous case of fraud. Law is conceived as a form of power value, conceived by L. Laswell and MacDougall. The development of the tradition of natural justice into one of natural law is usually attributed to Stoics. The requirement to give reasons in administrative decisions which affect right and liabilities has been held to be mandatory by the Supreme Court in S. N. Mukherjee versus Union of India. Donamore Committee report on Ministers' Power 1932 relates to England. Section 447, Clause 3 of Motor Vehicles Act empowers the Regional Transport Authority to limit the number of stage carriage permits. Explain the nature of the function exercised. This is an administrative function as the authority's decision based on the official policy. Here, in which famous case the issue had come up whether the advocate committed a professional misconduct and is guilty of an offense of criminal contempt of court for having interfered and obstructed the course of justice by trying to threaten, overawe, and overbear the court by using insulting, disrespectful, and threatening language. Vinay Chandra versus Vinay Chandra Mishra in Re. Misconduct would cover any activity or conduct which his professional brethren of good repute and competency would reasonably regard as disgraceful or dishonorable. It may be noted that the core scope of misconduct is not restricted by technical interpretations of rules or conduct. This was proven conclusively in the case of Bar Council of Maharashtra versus Dabolkar, M.V. Dabolkar. Retention of money deposited with the advocate for the decree holder even after the execution proceedings were held as an instance of misconduct, in which case Prahlad Saran Gupta versus Bar Council of India. The reason this paper is so difficult is because they are probably expecting you to know these case laws, which are very um, tough or difficult to, remember because even though most of them are landmark cases, but to, having these memorized is not an easy thing. Let us move on to 27, in which case where the advocate of one of the parties was asked for continuous adjournments to immense the inconvenience of the opposite party. It was held by the SC that seeking adjournments or postponing the examination of witnesses who were present without making other arrangements for examining such witnesses is a dereliction of the duty that an advocate owed to the court, amounting to misconduct. N.G. Dastane versus Shrikant Shinde. The judgment in dash skews the delicate balance carefully crafted by the model law and enshrined in section 34 between finality of arbitral awards on one hand and the permissible judicial review on the other hand. इसका आंसर है ONGC versus saw pipes. B. The Supreme Court in Dash held that irrespective of where the central management and control is exercised by a company, companies incorporated in India cannot choose foreign law as the governing law of the arbitration. ये है TDM Infrastructure versus UE Development of India. Which section of 1996 Arbitration Act permits the parties to engage in conciliation process even while the arbitral proceeding is going on? 30. Section 30. The presumption of continuance of life is contained in section dash of the Evidence Act 107. Testimony of a witness to the existence or non-existence of the fact or facts in issue are direct evidence. Who authored the book The First Principles of Jurisprudence? Salmond. Special summons under Section 206 of CRPC can be issued by a magistrate only. Mare Liberum, The Freedom of Seas, first published in 1909, is a book in Latin on international law written by Hugo Grotius. The Indian who is present member of International Court of Justice, ये obviously पुराना paper है, तो according to that answer key, the answer was Dalveer Bhandari, Justice Dalveer Bhandari. International Criminal Court is based on Rome's Statute of International Criminal Court. Constitutive and declaratory theories of state relate to state recognition. Tabula rasa under international law relates to state succession. With reference to cyber crimes, warm attack refers to do not need the host to attached. With reference to cyber crimes, warm attack do not need the host to attach. An attempt to acquire sensitive information such as username, password, credit card details, and sometimes indirectly money by the misconduct or a trustworthy entity in an electronic communication is known as phishing. The act to provide legal recognition for transactions carried out by the means of electronic data interchange and other means of electronic communication, commonly referred as electronic commerce, is dealt in the Information Technology Act of the year 2000. Asymmetric crypto system under Information Technology Act means a system of a secure key pair consisting of a private key for creating a digital signature. 43 का आंसर है a public key to verify digital signature. Section 43A of the IT Act deals with compensation for failure to protect data. The person taking part in commission of an offense have been divided into two classes, principal and abettors. What is the period of limitation prescribed for the suit instituted by a mortgagor to recover possession of an immovable property mortgaged? 30 years. Section 12 to 15 of the Limitation Act provides for an exclusion of time in computing the period of limitation prescribed by law. Which of the following falls into the inside the ambit of exclusion? All of the above. All are correct. Provisions regarding corporate social responsibility are incorporated in the Companies Act under Section 135. What is the corporate social responsibility among the following? Project-based protection of natural heritage. Talaq-e-tahweez is talaq by delegation. And any immovable property possessed by a female Hindu acquired before or after the commencement of Hindu Succession Act shall be held by her after the commencement of an act as an full owner. Who was the founder of Analytical School of Law? John Austin. There was a contract to supply oilseeds, but the government rendered the sale and purchase of oilseed illegal under the Defense of India rules. Identify the effect. Both parties are discharged from the performance of such contract. Principles evolved in Hadley vs. Baxendale on the basis of Section Dash of the Indian Contract Act 73. Section 6 of the Specific Relief Act 1963 states thus, if any person is disposed without his consent of immovable property otherwise than in due course of law, he or any person claiming through him may dash by recover possession thereof, notwithstanding any other title that may be set up in such suit. This is by suit. As per the Specific Relief Act 1963, identified the situation wherein any person interested in a contract may sue to have it rescinded, and such rescission may be adjudged by the court. इसका आंसर दोनों है, where the contract is voidable or terminable by the plaintiff, and where the contract is unlawful or causes not apparent in its face, and the defendant is more to blame than the defendant. Therefore, the right answer is C, both A and B. A and dash is one vote drawn by one person and accepted by another without consideration, merely to enable the drawer to raise money on the bill by discounting it. इसका आंसर है accommodation bill. Therefore, an accommodation bill is one which is drawn by one person and accepted by another without consideration, merely to enable the drawer to raise money on the bill by discounting it. Accommodation bill. Which provision of the Negotiable Instruments Act discusses the material alteration of an instrument and its effects? 58, का आंसर है 87. Section 87. A transfers property to B for life and after his death to C and D equally to be divided between them to the survivor or to the survivor of them. C dies during the lifetime of B. D survives B. At B's death, the property passes to D. A transfer rupees 500 to his niece C if she will desert her husband. The transfer is void. Amendments made in the year dash to the insertion of section dash to the Civil Procedure Court introducing provision to enable the court to refer pending cases to arbitration, conciliation, and mediation to facilitate early and amicable resolution of disputes. The answer is सबसे पहले तो अमेंडमेंट 1999 में हुई थी और सेक्शन जो था वो 89 था. The Companies Act of 1956 accords recognition only to accounting standards, whereas under Section 2, Clause 7 of the Companies Act 2013, the recognition is accorded both to accounting and dash standards auditing. Companies Act 2013 allows the formation of one person company also. Pigeonhole theory was proposed by Salmond. According to Motor Vehicles Act 1988, no person under the age of dash years shall drive a motor vehicle in any public place. 18. According to Consumer Protection Act 1986, what is the limitation period applicable to the three forums in entering a complaint? 2 years from the date on which the cause of action has arisen. Let us move on to question 67. Any person aggrieved by an order made by the district forum may prefer an appeal against such order to dash within a period of days from the date of order. इसका answer is State Commission and 30 days. The National Consumer Dispute Redressal Commission was constituted in the year 1988. A sees B running away from a room and afterwards sees C lying down in a pool of blood in the same room. A's evidence is in as far as seeing B running away is direct, but as far as the murder is concerned, it is circumstantial evidence. A statement made by the accused person before the trial begins by which he admits to have committed the offense, but which he repudiates at the trial is known as retracted confession. Expert opinion under section 45 is supportive and cooperative in nature. Dash of the Companies Act 2013 requires disclosure in prospectus of names and addresses of CFO about the sources of promoters' contribution, among other things. Section 26. Section 253 of the Companies Act deals with determination of sickness. If by imposing solitary confinement there is a total deprivation of camaraderie friendship among co-prisoners coming and taking and being talked to, it would offend Article 21 of the Constitution. The liberty to move, mix, mingle, talk, share company with co-prisoners, if substantially curtailed, would be violative of Article 21. This was held in the case of Sunil Batra versus Delhi Administration, AIR 1978. In State of Karnataka versus Union of India, AIR 1978, appointment of commission by the Union government under Section 3, Clause 1 of the Commission of Inquiry Act 60 of 1952 to look into the charges of corruption, etc., against the Chief Minister and other ministers of a state was challenged. It was held federal structure is not jeopardized. Equality is a dynamic concept with many aspects and dimensions and cannot be cribbed, cabined, and confined within the traditional and doctrinal limits. From a positive view, equality is antithetic and arbitrariness. In fact, equality and arbitrariness are sworn enemies. This was stated in the case of E.P. Royappa versus State of Tamil Nadu. So the right answer over here is option C. Period of limitation for execution of the order of maintenance is from which is dash from the date on which it becomes due. 1 year. Section 41B is incorporated into the Criminal Procedure Code on the basis of which of the following decisions? DK Basu versus State of West Bengal. Chapter dealing with plea bargaining has been inserted by the Criminal Law Amendment Act of 2005. As per the Criminal Procedure Code, during the investigation, a search can be conducted without warrant by the investigating officer. Prosecution of the offense of defamation can be initiated on the complaint of aggrieved party only. Here, where territorial jurisdiction of the court is transferred after passing a decree, an execution application may be filed in either the court under A or B. तो ये दोनों सही है. Which, when a decree is transferred for execution to another court, and if the decree holder has reasons to apprehend that the judgment debtor will dispose of the property before it is attached by the other court, he may apply to the court which passed the decree to issue a dash to attach the property at once. इसका आंसर है precept. It may be you might get confused and think कि attachment of property है तो attachment order है, but the right answer is precept. Where the right of the discovery or the inspection sought depends on the determination of any issue in the suit, the court may try that issue as a dash before deciding upon the right of discovery or inspection. Preliminary issue. Identify a case where the set-off is pleaded. Suit for recovery of a certain number of money, a certain sum of money. Here, leading questions can be asked during cross-examination. Here, repeat question है. Estoppel is a rule by which a party to the litigation is or are stopped from asserting or denying a fact. Under Section 122 of the Evidence Act, the communication made to the spouse during marriage, ये भी again repeat question है, remains privileged communication after the dissolution of marriage by divorce or death. Which provision under the Criminal Procedure Code reflects the principle of autorefus acquit, autorefus convict? 89 का आंसर है 300. Which section under the Transfer of Property Act discusses about the rights and liabilities of buyers and the seller of immovable property? 55. Identify the wrong statement from the following. ये जो second statement है वो wrong है, बाकी सब सही है. Then which is true of contracts of agency? It is only when a person acts as a representative of the other in the creation, modification, termination of contractual obligations between that order and third parties that he is an agent. Point out an example not related to contract of bailment. Shareholder executes an agreement bond favoring the company. A corporate resolution is not an offer unless efforts are made to communicate it, which was the case Blair versus Western Mutual Benefit Association. Last 5 to 6 questions. A issued a warrant to a police officer to arrest P, but the officer arrests Q after the due inquiry, believing Q to be P. Here, B has committed no offense by virtue of Section 76 of IPC. Durham doctrine means that an accused is not criminally liable if his unlawful act is the product of mental disease or mental defect. De minimis non curate lex implies trifling acts do not constitute an offense. P and Q agree to commit theft in R's house, but no theft is actually committed. P and Q are guilty of criminal conspiracy. Ramu was suffering from disease of a heart. Rahul, his heir, rushes into his room and shouts in his ear, "Your house has been destroyed by fire," intending thereby to kill Ramu. Ramu dies of shock. Here, R is liable for the offense of culpable homicide. The doctrine of civil conspiracy was enunciated by the House of Lords in the case of Quinn versus Leadham. In the next class or in the upcoming video, we will be dealing with AIBE 9.